Hey everyone, I'm Shannon, a self taught hand letterer and artist, and I love using mediums like brush pens, watercolors, acrylics, and Procreate. Thanks so much for joining me here at the Summer Creative Retreat. I'm sure you've learned a ton of information so far, and there's plenty more to come. In this class, we're going to be creating these watercolor illustrations in Procreate and then putting them all together with a quote to create this super fun hand lettered piece. So let's get started. For this lesson, you'll need an iPad and its compatible Apple Pencil. You'll also need the Procreate app as well as the freebie that I've provided for you. It will include the brushes, texture, and swatches for you to follow along. You can also use my watercolor lettering kit if you have it. The class freebie includes 4 brushes from that watercolor lettering kit, the dark edge eraser, which can be used for lettering and drawing, the toned wash brush for adding color, the watercolor special effects brush to smudge and erase as well as to lighten and darken areas, and then the bleed 3 brush for adding a realistic bleed effect. These are the main brushes that I'll be using for this tutorial, but if you have my full watercolor kit, you can use whichever ones in that set that you'd like. Along with those main brushes, I've included 10 other brushes. 3 of them are for adding more texture to your pieces, while the others are going to be used for the sketches for what we're painting today. So once you have everything imported and set up in Procreate, we're going to start off simple with a watermelon slice. Select the watermelon brush and stamp it onto the layer underneath the paper texture group. You can rotate and resize the sketch until you get it in the position that you want. Then add a layer underneath the sketch and lower the opacity of the sketch a bit. You can also set the blend mode to multiply, and that way you'll be able to see the sketch as you draw underneath. We're going to start by painting the skin. You can choose the first green in the swatch and the dark edge eraser brush and start painting along the edge of the sketch. Then use the lighter green to paint along the inner edge of the first line. Then we're going to choose the reddish pink and paint in the remaining color. As I'm painting, I'm leaving some white spaces rather than fill the complete shape. Also make sure that you leave some space between the pink and the green. Don't be afraid to lift your Apple Pencil from the screen as you paint or go over areas. This will help to darken the color and create an even more realistic watercolor effect. Choose the special effects brush and select the watermelon layer. Then we're going to blend in the darker areas. Once you finish, you can move on to blending in the green part. You're going to do this by simply dragging your pen along the edge where the 2 colors meet. Then turn off the selection for that layer and blend the pink and the green together lightly by tapping along the edge of both colors. Create a new layer above the watermelon and use white and the color drop brush to tap in some spots in a few areas. To finish up, we're going to add some seeds on a new layer. Choose a light brown and the dark edge writer brush to draw in some teardrop shapes for the seeds. Then I added a small shadow by simply drawing a line to the right of each seed using the same color. On a new layer, I'm also going to add some highlights using white, and I'm going to put that on the left side of each seed. And now you have completed your watermelon. But before we move on to the next illustration, you need to group those layers, and you can rename them and then hide that group. Stamp your next sketch onto the layer in between the paper texture group and the group that we just created for the watermelon. So I'm using a lighter color than the one I used for the watermelon and the dark edge writer brush to paint the top part of the popsicle. Then I'm going to use a bright orange for the middle and a bright yellow for the bottom. Once you have your colors down, you can use the special effects brush to blend them where they meet. On a new layer set to multiply, I'm using the dark edge writer brush to darken the middle section of the popsicle. At first, I used the same colors that I used for the popsicles, but then I went back in with a darker shade of each color, and then I used the special effects brush to blend those colors into the background color. To add even more dimension, I'm using the special effects brush to add in some white highlights. Then to add some texture, I'm using the color drop brush to add in some white spots. Then I'm going to stamp the bleed 3 brush onto the canvas and arrange it to align with the white part that I just painted. And then you can use the special effects brush to erase the part of the bleed that you don't want visible. To finish the popsicle, we're going to add the stick on a new layer underneath everything that we just drew. Choose a light brown color and the dark edge writer brush to draw in the shape of the stick. Then I added a small shadow by drawing a line at the top and the right side of the stick, and then I blended everything together with a special effects brush. And before you move on, you're just going to group these layers and get ready for the next illustration. So each section of my beach ball will be a different color, so I'll be painting each one on a separate layer. By now you should be a bit more familiar with the process, so you're just going to be adding color with the dark edge writer brush, then using the special effects brush to smudge, then adding your bleeds and textures to each section as you go. For the bikini, I'm painting the main areas without lifting my pen so that I can create a flat, even wash of color. Then with the layer selected, I'm going to add in some white stripes across the bikini. After I'm finished, I'm going to use the dark edge whiter brush to erase any parts of the stripes that I don't want visible. To add dimension, I just use the color drop brush to add in a few white spots, then the special effects brush to darken the edges around the bikini and around some of the stripes. And now we're on to lettering. So I'm just going to stamp out the sketch on a new layer and then lower the opacity and use the dark edge writer brush and black to write out my phrase. So if you're not a hand lettering artist, you can use a font and type out your phrase in black. If you are lettering this quote, don't feel as though you need to stick to the sketch. You can write whatever word you want in whatever style you want. Once you've finished adding your quote, we're going to add color. Go to the Adjustments tab and take the brightness of the letters to about 90 to 95%. We want it to be as light as possible so that the texture and the colors show through, and I'm not taking it all the way to 100 because I want to still be able to see the letters as I add the color. Next, we're going to create and clip a new layer above the letters. Then I'm using the toned wash brush to add my colors. You can keep it very simple and use one color, or you can go a bit overboard like me and use lots of different colors. Once I finish adding the color, I use the special effects brush to add some white inside of the letters. Make sure that you do this on a new layer. Once you've finished this step, you can add your textures and bleeds however you'd like. When you're happy with your lettering, you can group all those layers together, and then it is time for us to arrange our final piece. So you're going to do this by selecting all of the groups of the illustrations and the lettering, and then we're going to group them all together. Then duplicate that group and flatten each individual group. So make sure that you duplicate everything before you start arranging. Then you're going to arrange the illustrations around the letters. You are free to arrange them however you'd like. Just remember that if you move something off of the canvas, it will be cut off. So if you go to resize it, you won't have that piece of the illustration. So having them duplicated will make it much easier. Then when you're happy with the layout, you can leave it as it is or take it one step further and use the splatter brush to add some splatters. And we're now at the end of my class here for the summer creative retreat. I'm really happy that you joined me to create these really fun watercolor pieces in Procreate. If you enjoyed using these watercolor brushes, then you can check out the full watercolor kit. I will provide a link for you guys. I would love to see your creations, so feel free to tag me on Instagram at by Shannon Layne so that I can see your creations. Bye everyone.